The Psoriasis Journey, Part 1. I should have been very happy the day I realized my psoriasis was finally gone. I should have been. After all, I'd had it for 14 years. 14 years of dry, flaky skin. 14 years of itching, irritation and occasional bleeding. 14 years of arranging my life around the embarrassment and self-consciousness of knowing that people were staring at me. 14 long years. Now my skin was clear. Unblemished. Hadn't itched for nearly a year. Yet I was angry. Angry that my psoriasis was gone? That all that misery was over? Yes. Well, okay, let me clarify. I was delighted it was gone. Of course. But I was angry at how long I had suffered, before finally finding out how to get rid of it. Angry that I had undergone years of creams, ointments, treatments, and therapies, none of which had truly helped me. All of which had disappointed me in the end. What infuriated me most though was the discovery that the solution for psoriasis was both simple and already known to certain people. I'd been through so many treatments, suffered so many false hopes, endured so much discomfort and unhappiness. All because I'd believed that if I tried as many remedies as possible, I'd eventually stumble on one that actually worked. Which turned out not to be true. I played the numbers game, and I lost. I'd given up in the end, as so many people with my condition end up doing. And instead, I'd endured the embarrassment, the physical discomfort, and the practical day-to-day frustrations of a person whose every waking moment was controlled, consciously or subconsciously, by a condition that I thought I'd never be rid of. The embarrassment of psoriasis. In all those years I had developed a dozen ways of building my life around my psoriasis. A dozen ways of trying to make the condition not matter to me anymore. Which, of course, failed. Because my psoriasis always mattered. Because it always did something to my life, whether I wanted it to or not. As a child and then a teenager we're naturally self-conscious. About our looks. About how people think of us. About what people say about us. They say you grow out of that self-consciousness. As you get older you get wiser, and are less concerned with other people's opinions. That's probably true, unless you have psoriasis. Because the thing with any noticeable skin condition is that, every single day someone notices you for the first time. A cashier at the supermarket. A passing policeman. A new work colleague. A relative's friend. Just a person walking past me on the street. I know instantly that they've noticed me. And I know exactly what they've noticed about me. Of course, polite people do their best to show they haven't noticed that your skin has flared or is scaly and dry. Others, though, are far less worried about how their actions distress you. They stare. And when they did I knew exactly what they were staring at. It was humiliating. But also intensely frustrating. Can't you just not look? I'd scream at them, but only in my mind. At times the itching was unbearable. I didn't much enjoy meeting new people. And, as you might expect, I was extremely anxious about new romantic relationships. I'm actually not bad looking. And I'm outgoing, educated, well-read. So reasonably attractive to the opposite sex. But I struggled to even speak to someone I liked. No matter what they did I always thought. They're looking at that dry patch on the side of my scalp. They spotted the red skin on my arm. They're wondering if it's contagious. They're turned off by my appearance. Well-meaning friends advised me to ignore it. Think positive thoughts. Don't assume people are thinking about your skin condition. But the sheer effort of pretending none of this was happening, that everything was just normal was itself exhausting. Sometimes I didn't bother pretending. When the condition was covering more than half my body, it became impossible to hide, especially in summer. I never stopped wishing I could just grow out of it. I was well into adulthood before I realized, it just doesn't work that way. Psoriasis even affected the jobs I could do. My condition flared up from time to time making me red and blotchy. Sometimes my skin would bleed, and I wouldn't even notice it. So I certainly didn't want customer-facing roles. I once stayed in a horrible company, There was bullying, discrimination, and a really toxic atmosphere, because I simply couldn't face the embarrassment of going to job interviews. The thought of being on display filled me with dread. Even in the firm I now work for, which I absolutely love, my skin condition made me reluctant to seek promotion. Because as I became more senior, I knew I'd have to meet other people in our company, and they'd see the scaly skin and the red blotches that made up my appearance. That's changed now that my psoriasis is gone. My career is healthier than it's ever been. But my condition held me back for years, costing me relationships, job satisfaction, and money. In some ways my condition robbed me of life. I've got that life back now. I'm so happy. But I do wish I'd found my remedy sooner. There are many treatments for psoriasis. And like so many people, including you, perhaps, I'd tried a lot of them. In fact, I went through a series of escalating treatments. You will probably either have tried some of these already, or you're worrying that you eventually will have to. First was an emollient, a cream applied to the skin to reduce water loss, and cover the area with a protective film. That reduced my itching for a while. This was followed by moderately strong steroid creams, topical corticosteroids, if you want to get technical. These reduced my symptoms quite noticeably. For a short while I actually thought my psoriasis was being cured. That turned out not to be true at all, unfortunately. Although my psoriasis got gradually worse, my GP was very reluctant to strengthen the steroids. Because side effects could include thinning and therefore splitting of the skin. Which sounded horrible enough that I didn't want to take the risk. I was already experiencing bleeding. He did add calcipotriol, a vitamin D treatment, to the steroid treatment. And that combination of treatments did reduce my symptoms briefly. But my psoriasis was developing in its own way. And at its own pace. In fact, the condition rarely stays the same for anyone. It changes over time in unpredictable ways. Treatments rarely keep up. Next, I tried a drug which lowers activity in the immune system, which in turn reduces the inflammation that leads to psoriasis. Unfortunately, one of the side effects, a burning skin sensation in places all over my body, prevented me from using the treatment for long enough. The side effect was in some ways worse than the psoriasis itself. I also tried phototherapy in combination with dithronol and cold tar. And, again, I noticed some definite improvements in my condition. But, again, the good news wore off gradually. Everything did something. For a while. And that, actually, is what they all had in common. They improved my symptoms and gave me some sort of relief, but as my condition progressed, they became increasingly less effective. The psoriasis would reassert itself, and I was almost back where I started. In more recent years my joints started to hurt, my neck, knees, and elbows especially. It was more an ache, and it occurred only when I bent down to pick something up, or if I ran for a bus. But that, of course, led me to wonder if I was developing psoriatic arthritis. It's a real risk for psoriasis sufferers. The last thing I wanted was to lose my mobility. My last medical treatment was a light treatment called PUVA. By this time my psoriasis was switching between bad and severe, and specialists were running out of options. I did not like PUVA at all. Before the PUVA session I had to take a protective tablet containing psoralins. Then I was subjected to the light treatment. It was not pleasant. I had to wear special glasses for 24 hours after each treatment, to prevent eye cataracts. Side effects include nausea, headaches, burning, and itchiness. I smile now, as I recall that the side effects of a psoriasis treatment were, effectively, more psoriasis. The final straw. There's a reason why PUVA was my last treatment. It's this: at each new level of treatment, the side effects of the treatment grew more worrisome. The PUVA treatment I just mentioned was a case in point. I reached a stage where my worries about what could go wrong exceeded my hopes for a cure. Consider this. The next level of psoriasis treatments is called systemic treatments. They're called systemic because they work at the level of the whole body. While they aren't cures as such, they do have marked success in controlling psoriasis. But the side effects are something else. Collectively, side effects can include rashes, dry lips and nasal passages, fertility problems in men and women, nausea, liver damage, kidney disease, and high blood pressure. And because they work on the immune system, some of these treatments leave you open to some nasty infections as well. Which means most of these treatments have to be stopped after 12 or 16 weeks if they're not working. I did wonder if, in some cases, the side effects were worse than the psoriasis itself. I mean, is liver damage worse than a skin condition? I'd say it was. Stay tuned for the psoriasis journey, part 2.